This is the most popular cookie in the world. You twist it, you lick it, and you dunk it. A wholesome and delightful way to enjoy a tasty snack. But the company behind Oreo may not be so wholesome.
Popular cookies on the planet, Oreos, has now been hit with a class action lawsuit alleging that what they're saying is on the package that's in the product isn't actually in the product.
With plagiarism allegations, feuds, and even darker fantasies. Now that's exactly what I want to cover today. Well, not dark fantasies, but some of the dark secrets behind the world's favorite cookie, as well as what really helped take them to the top. Because if you didn't know, Oreo has buried secrets over the past century, from starting out as a battle between two brothers, a knockoff of the original, and a pure marketing powerhouse. So sit back and relax, because this is how Oreo stole and made billions.
Here I come.
To understand Oreo's story, we need to go back in time, over 100 years back to the original founder and his brother, Jacob and Joseph Luce. The two brothers started this bakery together, and after about 7 years of working their butts off, managed to grow it to become the second largest in the country. But Jacob ends up getting sick and has to move out of the country to recover. Meanwhile, Joseph starts expanding the bakery even further and ends up striking a major deal to merge with the top biscuit company at the time, the National Biscuit Company, or what we know as Nabisco today. Once recovered, Jacob returns to the US only to find out his brother had made this massive change without telling him. The two get into a heated argument, and Jacob ends up leaving their company to start his own competing bakery from scratch, the Luce Wiles Biscuit Company. And after 10 years, Luce Wiles grows to become the #2 bakery in the US, falling just behind the one and only Nabisco. Now here's where it gets crazy. Jacob, eager to take the top spot in the market from his brother, ends up releasing an award-winning cookie that people loved, and it was called the Hydrox, a sandwich cookie consisting of 2 chocolate biscuits with a vanilla cream center. Sure, its name wouldn't be so appetizing in today's markets, but at the time, it wasn't really that odd. In fact, Luce Wiles actually wanted a chemical-sounding name to advertise that the food was clean and safe to eat. Then what do you know? In 1912, 4 years after the release of the Hydrox, Joseph and Nabisco come out with an oddly similar looking cookie called the Oreo. As far as its name, nobody really knows where it came from, but that's for a different topic. Okay, now look at this. I mean, similar might be an understatement. Side by side, the two are pretty much identical. The circular shape, the white filling, and even the laurel wreath design on the outside. But thankfully for Jacob and his Hydrox, Oreo didn't actually do that well during the first few years of its launch. It was priced cheaper than the Hydrox and came off as a generic cookie. So the Hydrox remained the king of cookies while Oreo was produced at a loss. But obviously, our story doesn't end here, with Oreo becoming the household name we all know today. So how did they really win? Was it their name? Was it their taste? Was it their marketing? Or did Oreo tie up the Hydrox and torture it with their own cleaning product? Well, luckily for you, I've done the research so you don't have to. Let's start with the obvious, the names. As I pointed out earlier, Hydrox wasn't named mistakenly, since it was very common for companies in the early 20th century to put sawdust and other cheaper alternatives for biscuits. The Hydrox name was intended to make the cookie sound pure and high quality. In fact, I would argue that it was a pretty clever name if you took the time to think about it. But of course, as time went on and consumer behavior started to change, so too did the interpretation of the name. Hydrox began to sound a lot like the generic cleaning products that were on the market. So as you might have guessed, the cookie quickly lost its sexy, appeal. In 1999, Hydrox was then renamed to Droxy's, but somehow performed even worse. Now, although Hydrox's name probably wasn't the best, if you take a look at Oreo's, theirs doesn't sound like anything special either. And I mean, how much can you really blame a name? For all I know, the world's most valuable company is named after a fruit, which is as generic as it gets. There had to be something else in the mix. And this is where I believe Oreo really took things to the next level, their marketing. Hydrox and Oreo had two very different marketing strategies. Hydrox was focused on promoting themselves as the original, whereas Oreo doubled down on creating viral campaigns and innovative products. In fact, Oreo is known for having some of the most iconic campaigns in the world. Take for example the Oreo Twist ads that started back in 1923, where Oreo placed ads on trolley cars featuring the iconic Twist. Even to this very day, the Twist is included in almost every modern Oreo commercial, and it's estimated that 50% of Oreo eaters still twist the cookie before eating it. Or perhaps take the Twist Lick and Duck ads, which were released all throughout the 1990s. If you hadn't heard of them, you either weren't born yet or had to be living under a rock. The campaign was a series of ads that showed you the perfect way to eat Oreos, which of course went extremely viral. Meanwhile, through the mid-1900s, Hydrox was just really focused on exposing Oreo as a knockoff. And I mean really. Going as far as to advertise a tiny bear crying over stolen cookies, and obsessed on having the words "the original" on almost every ad. Alright, now I could go on and on about how the two differed in marketing, but Oreo was clearly more successful with their efforts, and is probably why most of us remember their ads over Hydrox's. But still, it wasn't just marketing that they outpaced the Hydrox in. Oreo was also constantly coming out with new and innovative products. For example, in 1974, Oreo released the double stuffed Oreos, which I think we can all agree totally revolutionized the game, even if they might not actually be double stuffed. You didn't hear from me, but they're more around 1.8 times more stuffed. Or how about in 1985, when they teamed up with Dairy Queen to launch the Oreo Blizzard, the same year that Oreo officially earned the title of best-selling cookie in the world, selling over 6 billion cookies that year. Now, it seems like they have a flavor that covers almost anything and everything, from Oreo mint to Oreo birthday cake to even Oreo watermelon. You name it, they've probably got it. By the way, what's your favorite flavor? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm more of a classic Oreo guy myself. Now, I'm not saying more is always better, but in this case, it probably was. See, the Oreo brand became so widely known that even when Hydrox tried to promote themselves as the original, people didn't believe them, and instead thought they were the knockoff. Kinda like if you told the joke to your friend, but your friend said the joke louder to the whole class. The craziest part is despite gaining almost full control of the cookie market, Oreo wasn't yet done with their older sibling, and here's where things took a turn for the dark. Leading up into the early 2000s, Hydrox really only had one real advantage over Oreos. They were kosher and Oreos weren't. This meant that Hydrox could still dominate in the Jewish community, which at face value wasn't really a problem, because the market for kosher cookies is extremely small. Not only that, but for Oreo to become kosher, it had to remove the lard from its cookies, which meant it would involve a massive and expensive makeover to their facilities. But of course, they did it anyways, and replaced their lard with hydrogenated oil, which not to mention was even worse for the heart than lard. By 2003, Kellogg's, who had acquired Hydrox, fully stopped producing the cookies altogether, and it seemed like Oreo had finally gotten what they had asked for, a full annihilation of their rival. Well, for about 10 years at least, up until Hydrox was miraculously revived from the dead by Ilya Kasov, a passionate Jewish man who was determined to bring it back. Ilya purchased Hydrox from Kellogg's in 2014, and just a year later, re-released the cookie under his own company, Leaf Brands. Now this is where it gets even darker. As Hydrox started being reintroduced across grocery store shelves in America, multiple customers had reported that the cookies were found moved to the very top shelves or physically hidden behind Oreo packages and other products. Now you might be thinking, maybe a replicant or two must have been playing around at the grocery store, right? Wrong. So to fully understand this, you need to understand that Oreo was acquired by Mondelez International in 2012, a massive food conglomerate that has access to something called the direct distribution model. This essentially means that their own workers are responsible for going to grocery stores like Walmart and stocking the shelves with their products rather than store workers themselves. And considering how frequently this was happening across the country, and the fact that Ilya was actually warned of this exact thing by a product buyer at Walmart, in 2018, Leaf Brands filed an $800 million complaint with the FTC against Mondelez, accusing them of hiding their cookies from customers on store shelves. Now, while Oreo has definitely dipped their toes in some of the shady stuff, you still can't discredit that they made some really smart business moves to help them rise to the top. As for Hydrox, under the wing of Ilya, they've managed to stay alive and are actually doing quite well. In fact, you can purchase them on Amazon, where they've racked up a nice 4.6 star review with over 3,500 reviews. So who knows, maybe they'll bounce back even bigger and better. But for now, if you want to dunk your feet in more twisty licking content, make sure to hit the subscribe button and check out some of my other videos. As always, thanks for watching and see you next time.